Hey y'all, in this video we're going to be drawing a stylized apple tree. If you would like to follow along, you can find the Procreate file, brushes, and color palette to download for free in the description box below. Let's get started. Pause the video here while you install everything. We will begin by lowering the opacity of the line art layer. We're going to lower it to around 10% and then add a new layer. We're going to move the line art layer to the very top and then select a color. We're going to go to our palettes, select the first color. Now we're going to begin drawing the greenery of the apple tree. We're going to be using the lumpy brush for this. We're going to be doing some swirly dirlies here. Don't worry about it being perfect. As long as you're having fun, it doesn't matter. Now we're going to be creating a new layer. Move the last layer over the top of the new layer. To fill these in, we're simply going to color drop. Just drag from the circle and push continue filling and tap, and there you go. New layer here. Move the last layer up. Now we're going to choose a new color. We're going to go with the second color in the palette and continue making our little swirly dirlies. We're going to be color dropping into these as well. Bloop. Now we're going to begin the layer for the tree trunk. We're going to add a new layer, move it to the bottom. We're going to select the brown color on your color palette and begin tracing the outline of the tree trunk. Going to color drop. Now we're going to add a new layer. Move that layer to the very bottom, and we're going to start drawing the small tree branch. We're going to lower our brush size just a little bit because this is a really narrow space. And then once again, we're going to color drop. There you go. Now we're going to begin the apples. New layer. The very top. Select the first red color in the palette. We're going to begin drawing some apples. For the circular apple at the very top, all you have to do is draw an oval shape and then hold with your pen, and it'll straighten it up just a little, make it look prettier. And then to fill the apples, we're going to color drop in each one. Push continue filling and just tap, tap, tap. There we go. Now we're going to add some texture. We're going to start with the top green layer. Add a new layer. We're going to create a clipping mask. Change the blend mode to multiply. Then we're going to select the first green color on our palette and change our brush to the sand brush. This is how we're going to add texture to everything. Just lightly tap and drag. This part you can just kind of have fun with. See, we're going to merge down and then go to our next layer. Add a new layer. Add the clipping mask. Multiply. And then start working on these green areas underneath. Now we're going to merge down. The light green layers, we're going to add a new layer. Change our blend mode to multiply. create a clipping mask. Our second green color, we're going to select that and keep going. Now we're going to merge the layer down. We're going to move on to our tree trunk. We're going to start with the small part. We're going to add a new layer, make a clipping mask, and go to multiply on the blend mode. We're going to select our brown color. We're going to reduce the size of the brush just a little bit. Remember, just tap and drag. I'm going to merge those layers together. We're going to work on the big part of the tree, clipping mask, multiply. Going to turn our line art back on so we can see some stuff. Just have fun with this part. Going to raise our brush size back just a little bit. Now we're going to merge down. Now our texture is almost done. We're going to go with our apples now. New layer, clipping mask, blend mode to multiply. And for the apples, we're going to go a little darker. So we're going to pick the darker red. We'll reduce our brush size just a little bit. Just tap, 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 and drag. If you make a mistake, 2-finger tap. You can erase. All right, we're done with those. We're going to merge our layers down. With the apples, we're going to do a little extra. So we're going to add a new layer on top of our last layer. Make a clipping mask. And this time, the blend mode, we're going to set to overlay. We're going to pick a white color. And we're going to use the same method, but we're going to add some highlights. All right, now we're going to merge that layer down. And now we're going to add a new layer on top of the top greenery layer. Going to change that to overlay. We're going to change our brush back to the lump brush. This is where we're going to add some leaves. We're going to have some lighter colored leaves and some dark colored leaves. Doesn't matter where you stick these, just kind of pick and choose. Now we're going to go to a black for the darker leaves. And we're going to lower the opacity of this layer down. Let's turn our line art off, and then we're going to lower the opacity to around 30%. Maybe 25. Let's do 25. We're going to merge down. Turn our line art back on. Move to the second layer of the tree greenery clipping mask. I'm going to do overlay. We're going to start adding some leaves. Just going to stay with the black color for now. I'm going to hold on to our color and change back to our white. If you hold the color swatch, it will automatically go in reverse and select the last color you had. Gonna lower our opacity, 25%. Then we're gonna merge our layers down. All right, our last greenery layer, we're gonna do the same thing here. Clipping mask, overlay, begin drawing our leaves. Time to swap to our black color. Now we're gonna lower our opacity to 25% and merge. Now we're going to begin working on the highlights and shadows. So we're going to create a clipping mask, change the blend mode to overlay. We're going to begin with the black color, adding shadows around the apples. We're going to put shadows around the apple leaves and the apple stems. Now we're going to add some highlights using white. Just going to color this in. I'm going to lower our opacity level. Set that around 35%, maybe 30. Let's do 30. Now we're going to merge down and start with our next layer of greenery, clipping mask, overlay the edges here and our highlights. Change to black for our shadows. I suggest having your line art on for this. I turned mine off, but forgot the clipping mask. Into our highlight. I'm going to lower our opacity down at 30%, and we're going to merge. Go to our last greenery layer, That's the lightest layer. Now we're going to begin adding our highlights. Adding our shadows. I'm going to lower our opacity down to 30%. Now we're going to merge our layers. We're checking to make sure we didn't miss anything, and I did. So we're going to go to the layer where I missed the shadow on this apple. I'm going to create a clipping mask, overlay, and fill this in. Back down to 30% again. And we're going to merge. And we're going to merge our greenery together. We're going to start on the tree trunk. Make sure you have your line art on for this. Create a new layer, clipping mask, and we're going to go to overlay. We're going to start with black. We're going to fill in some of these shadows on the knots and the holes. We're going to turn the opacity down to 25% and then merge. Now we're going to create a new layer, clipping mask, and overlay. Keep our black color. We're going to go over some of these holes and knots one more time. We're going to begin tracing some of our little swirls and lines. Turn our line art off so we can see better. And we're going to lower our opacity to 30% and merge. Now we're going to begin adding our highlights. For this, we're just going to do another overlay clipping mask and use our white color to fill in our highlights. Go around our holes to highlight those. Make sure for this layer you set the opacity to 30%, just like the layer before. Now we're going to merge our layers down. Create a new layer, clipping mask, overlay. Now we're going to do the big highlights and the big shadows. Just go along the edge of the tree here. Change to black for our shadows. Just kind of find a cute little curve here. Follow the edge of the tree, the greenery. Gonna lower our opacity. Gonna set it at around 30%. And we're gonna begin on our tree branch. Gonna add a new layer. Turn our line art back on. Clipping mask. Overlay. And we're gonna begin with our black. Color in some of our knots and holes. And we're gonna lower our opacity to 25% and then merge our layers down. Add a new layer, clipping mask, overlay, still using the black, go over the edges of the knots and holes, and fill in our swirls. I like to turn off my line art to see exactly what everything looks like. We're going to select our white, add some highlights. We're going to turn our opacity down. We're going to set it at around 25% and merge our layers. Add a new layer for our shadows, same as before. Just going to be using black this time. Our dark shadows. Going to lower the opacity down to 35%. And we're going to merge. Now, on top of the greenery layer, we're going to add a new layer. We're going to select our brown color. We're going to begin the stems of the apples. For this, we are using the lump brush, just like on the layers before. For the round apple, we're going to add a new layer on top of the apple layer. Put our cute little stem here. Now we're going to add a new layer under the stem. Going to select the last color on our color palette and begin drawing our leaves. New layer underneath the biggest stip layer. I'm going to do our leaves now. Our layer with just one leaf, we're going to add a new layer on top of it, clipping mask, and multiply. Just hit the blend mode to multiply. Going to change to our sand brush. We just kind of tap and drag and merge down. Going to do the same for the large group of leaves, clipping mask, set our blend mode to multiply. Just kind of tap and drag, tap and drag. If it's covering up too much of your leaves, just change your brush size just a little bit, lower it down. Now we're going to merge layers, add a new layer, clipping mask, and overlay. I'm going to change to the lump brush. We're going to select white from our color palette. Draw a nice little line. It's too big. Let's make it a little smaller. There we go. And do this for each of the apples. I'm going to lower the opacity level down to around 30%. Then we're going to merge layers. Work on our single leaf. Add new layer. Clipping mask. Overlay. I'm going to lower that down. 25%. We're going to merge layers. Turn our line art off. Or delete it. You can always save your line art if you want to do another copy later. Create a clipping mask on top of our greenery. We're going to enhance some of the shadows around the leaves because they're not quite dark enough. So using black, just go around them. Or opacity back down to 30%. Merge down. Now merge all of your layers together. And there you have it.
Thanks for watching!